Today I am doing my review of Paul Noble's Next Steps in Spanish. It's about a 7-hour course. I remember the price was one Audible credit or less. I forget which one, but that means $15 or less. It's a steal. This comes after the main Paul Noble Spanish course, which also only costs an Audible credit, and you get like 15 hours of instruction on that. And so if you enjoyed that first one, please just go right on to Next Steps in Spanish. First thing I noticed different was in the beginning it was faster paced. However, toward the middle, he does slow down a bit because he gets into past tense verb structures that you haven't had before, and it's a little more sophisticated with the grammar. And his method of teaching the grammar as far as verb tenses reminds me of something that I read in Pimsleur's How to Learn a Foreign Language. I got mine on Kindle. There's probably hard copy too, but I definitely recommend reading it because it goes further into how to learn a foreign language than the actual Pimsleur programs on CDs and on computer. Getting back to my main point here, learning verbs horizontally. What does that mean? Okay, well, let's compare. You start your first day in Spanish class, they put the verb estar on the board, and then they show you all the conjugations of it, right? And each time you learn a new verb, you learn all the conjugations of that one verb. Well, what Pimsleur said in his book is that you learn a tense, and then you learn a whole bunch of verbs in that tense. So let's say you learn the past tense, the first person past tense of one verb in the course, then you learn a whole bunch of other verbs in that exact same tense. Now this is of course superior to the standard classroom way, because when you think about it, what would you rather know? A whole bunch of verbs in one tense, or a whole bunch of tenses of only one verb? It's going to stick in your mind better if you learn a tense and then do plenty of practice with that one tense. And that's what he does. And he doesn't outright say, this is what I'm doing or why, but I mean, I could just tell that that's what he's doing, because not only have I read about it in Paul Pimsleur's book, but also I've seen it demonstrated in Margarita Madrigal's Magical Key to Spanish, where she talks about a verb tense in a chapter and then goes through a bunch of verbs in that one tense. A very highly effective method of teaching verb tenses, and it doesn't surprise me at all that Paul Noble adopted this in his course, and it's very, very effective. He tells you what the words mean, he gives a pause, and then has a native speaker say it after the pause so that you can see if you've got it correct. And he just does that same thing over and over: lather, rinse, repeat, instruct, question, confirm. It's an extremely effective way of learning. Pimsleur actually has it the best way, although it is frenetically fast-paced Pimsleur. It's highly structured, and there's not as much instruction in Pimsleur. But what I like most about Pimsleur is that Pimsleur will ask you, how do you say this in Spanish? There will be a pause. Then the native speaker will say it, and then there will be another pause for you to either say it again for practice, or if you said it wrong, for you to then say it correctly. Now, just as a personal message to Mr. Noble, if you're there, Mr. Noble, or you're watching this, or any of your people are watching this video, please edit your courses so that there is a pause after the native speaker speaks, and you will achieve perfection. I highly recommend it, especially if you've done Paul Noble's main course and you enjoyed it. You're going to get that same sort of quality. You're going to get just as much enjoyment, if not more.